And joining me now is Michael Reagan, Newsmax Contributor, President of the Reagan Legacy Foundation. Hey, Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Steve. I just say something, and I tweeted out yesterday at Reagan World. I said it's really interesting when you think about, the 2000 election. I mean, you have Al Gore got 540,000 more votes than George Bush, but George Bush won. Why? Because he won in the Electoral College election, if you will. And that's what's going on here in the primaries. You have the vote of the people, but then you have the delegate count. And if you're not paying attention to the delegates and how they get distributed, then you're in trouble.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, but I don't know how long you were there with me for that interview, but I played an NBC report about how Ted Cruz could lose Pennsylvania and still get a majority of the delegate. I know, but I just don't think people have realized it to this point. They know the Electoral College. They understand that. I don't mean they understand it, how it works, but they accept it. But this, winning a state, having people vote, or not having people vote, as was the case in some states, or having people vote and then you read Cruz goes in and turns the delegates. I mean, that just doesn't seem right.
Well, it is part of the game. It is hardball. It's sharp elbows. That's what it is. We went through it in 1976, went through it in 1980, 1984. It's the way the game is played. If you don't have the right people in place, and look at Donald Trump. He finally woke up and said, it's more than flying my 757 into some place and having a greeting, meet and greet for 20,000 people. He now went out and hired who? He hired people who understand the process, Paul Manafort and others, to try and fix what he wasn't looking at. He thought being applauded was enough to win. He found out it takes a lot of grunt work to win.
All right. Well, what do you think is going to happen here? Obviously, Donald Trump will win New York, but I mean, is Cruz going to be able to make enough noise, or Kasich make enough noise to deny him the 50% and really create a story?
No, I think you'll get your 50% on the large level. It now comes down to the different parts of the state where there's 3 votes up. You need more than 50% to get all 3 delegates from those parts of the state. And that's where you have John Kasich. That's where you have Ted Cruz concentrating, trying to beat him in those areas. Trump's going to get the 14 at-large delegates. That's a no-brainer. Is he going to get all of the rest of those is where they're fighting. Because right now it's not about Ted Cruz and John Kasich, certainly not John Kasich, but Ted Cruz aren't fighting to win the nomination on the first ballot. They're fighting to stop Donald Trump from winning the nomination on the first ballot, just like what we were doing in '76, trying to stop a sitting president from winning the nomination on the first ballot.
Let me ask you about the Democrat side. We've seen polls before, as Bill Kristol indicated, in other states, I think Wisconsin in particular, he mentioned, where Hillary had a huge lead and then, didn't work out so well. I mean, this is New York. We see these 18, 20, 25,000 people showing up at Bernie Sanders rallies. Could he have more enthusiasm in his voters and pull off an upset, or just make it squeaky close? Again, not that he'd get the number of delegates out of it, but at least win the vote.
Yeah, you've got a point going on here. People usually vote for somebody that they like. And Hillary has never been likable. That's her biggest problem in this campaign, was back in 2012 and every other year. And Bernie, whether you agree or disagree with his politics, I hope everybody disagrees. Unfortunately, there's college kids that don't. They think, oh, that's great, free college. But the reality of it is, they like him. And people who make $300,000 or $400,000 a year, like Bill Kristol was talking about, like him. And so they go out and they pull the lever for him. And I don't know if it's so much for Bernie at that level as it is against Hillary, who is the most unlikable candidate on the planet. And that's the good side of the Republicans in this year's election battle.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds going forward and what Bernie voters will do. Just very briefly, I alluded to an exit poll from ABC News that said 75% of the Republican voters in New York today told ABC News that the person with the majority of delegates should be the nominee. And I know we addressed that in the beginning, but that's the popular mindset.
I think that's because really I hate to say low information voter, but they are low information voters on the process. Are those people who are saying that Donald Trump or Ted Cruz is like Ronald Reagan? And you have these people who are Ronald Reagan supporters. What would they have said back in 1976? Would they have said the same thing when the guy they were supporting was in the second position, not the first?
No, very,
position?
very good question. Michael, I know you're going to be contributing to the coverage throughout the night. I appreciate it, so I will speak to you a little bit later after this show ends and the coverage continues. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. Up
Take
next,
care.
Street Talk with Nora and your calls at 877 Newsmax. Don't miss it.